The views, information, or opinions expressed during the Cope for the Culture podcast are solely those of the individuals involved. The content presented is not a substitute for seeking or seeing a licensed mental health professional.
Know what's up next, know what's up next. Healthy pleasure with it, coping for the culture. Better tune in, better tune in. Big sis, get 'em, big sis, get 'em. Coping for the culture, 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 cope.
Hey y'all, and welcome to the Cope for the Culture podcast. I'm your host, Tiana Renee, the Culture's Advocate. On this show, we interview individuals from different walks of life who are dedicated to being the change within the culture as it relates to various topics and their effects on the world of mental health. Today's show is about mental health and the strong Black mother. And I'm going to say that I have an exceptional guest today. And I say exceptional because we struggled, y'all, to record this. We've recorded this episode at least 3 times.
That's all right.
Full disclosure. But let me go ahead and give y'all a little bit about her. So she has a background in psychology and clinical therapy. She has been married for 5.5 years and has 4 beautiful children. She has taken what she's learned from her schooling, interactions with other women, and her own personal experience to navigate her work now as a life coach. Through her work as a life coach, she is dedicated to helping women prioritize big needs in life so they can be less overwhelmed and operate out of intention in womanhood and motherhood. I would like to welcome Shadee Language to the Cope for the Culture podcast. Welcome, Shadee.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you for being here again.
You know, I just like hanging out with you. So this is fun. This is all right with me.
Okay. We go way, way back.
Yeah.
All right. So I gave a spiel about you, but is there anything else you want to share before we get started?
No, I think you did an awesome job. You know, I love women. I love the call that we have on our life. I love what God is really doing with the women today in today's society. I truly love my Black women. You know, I think that there's a special, bond and love. And when we get together, we're powerful. So, you know, that's what I do. That's what I put my life into, my life work. So thank you again for having me. I'm excited about this.
No problem. Thank you. So before I get started, I always like to ask my guests what their favorite self-care practice is because I'm all about self-care. And I feel like the more we talk about it, the more we can give people ideas of what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So share with us what your favorite practice is.
Ooh, my favorite. I like taking care of myself, honey. That's just goal number 1. So my favorite lately self-care practice has been looking in the mirror. And you know what I used to do? I used to pray over myself. And now I pray for my position in the day. So God, help me with where I am as a mom. Help me with where I am as a wife, as a teacher. Create opportunities for me. Create doors that are open. Create moments that I can see and walk through it. Lately, I've been really doing that. And looking in the mirror with it and just it has been so transforming because I'm literally speaking the word over my life, seeing it manifest in my life. That's like a spiritual self-care, just powering up my spirit, man, before I go out and do anything. Lately, I've been really taking the time to do that. And it has been so great. I've been running everywhere. Okay, there's God's provision. Okay, there's God's faith. Because I set myself up to see it in the beginning of the day. So
right.
Lately, that's my favorite self-care.
And I love that. And I have not heard that yet on this show. And that makes me so excited. But also, when I think of self-care, even with the planners that I released, the weekly self-care plan always includes mind, body, and soul. Because you can't just take care of one part and not the other part. You can work out every day and still not have your mind together.
Man, you're
still
right.
Be broken as a person. You can still have all these things. And I pray too. I think a lot of times I pray when I'm in trouble, all right, God, here I am again.
Right.
Here she is. She's here. I need you to help me with.
Yep. Here's my list for today.
Right. And I've gotten more into meditation and doing that and just sitting with myself. And I can see the difference that has made and just being able to say okay, this is what you need. This is how you feel. This is how we're going to get there, and incorporating that alongside of prayer. But I think too, just making a decision every day, okay, this is what it is, God, whatever you got for me, I'm ready for it.
I'm ready. I'm taking it full force. Me and Fear, we're going to do it together. You already set the moment. So I'm going to just walk in. You're already there, Lord. I'm going to just walk in. And I'm telling you, I'm looking in the mirror like, Shadee, you're the best. And, God's got you and he's called you to this. And this is your moment. I leave out the house charged up, honey.
Hello.
I leave out the house. Hello, world.
Here I am.
Right.
But affirmations are so important too because it's reinforcing, especially because a lot of time you brought up fear. Fear will make you think that you can do nothing. And you'll be like, okay, well, here I am defeated again. But if you wake up and say, all right, you got it. This is what we're going to do. You have all the skills that you need. You're equipped. You are competent.
Yes.
And go. Then hey.
Yes, sis. Take that. All you listening, take that. Try it for 1 week. Look at yourself in the mirror. Just tell yourself how great you are. Give yourself that opportunity to walk through with courage. And I'm telling you, it's going to transform you.
I appreciate that. I'm going to start trying that tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow on my calendar.
On this date, it shall happen.
Right.
All right, y'all. So y'all heard me say earlier that the topic is on the strong Black mother. We all have heard that term. I think we probably all have very different definitions and perspectives and understanding of what that means. But I think overall, motherhood is not something that we can necessarily escape. And not to say that as a person, you have to have children. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying if you were here, you were brought here by somebody. Like you didn't just walk out and like, boom, what's up? No.
Right.
You were born. Someone took the time to make and create you. And so I know there's a lot that goes with being a mother. I'm not a mother myself, but I do at some point dream to be a mother. And I do have all these expectations and all these things of what it's going to look like. I know that's not always how it goes. And Shadee, I know you're probably like, girl, don't even set yourself up. It's not going to happen that way. But in the same time, because of, my thought process, I can only imagine, and just seeing like on social media and having friends and being at the milestones where we are at, like, absolutely. You're ahead of the curve for most people, Shadee. But, for the people who do set those milestones and time frames, like, okay, I'm walking up on 30. Right. What does that look like? Okay, am I going to have children? Am I going to do this? And already putting those expectations on themselves.
Right.
And so, that makes me wonder for you because you're already an established mom. You got 4. You're making it happen.
4 beautiful souls, baby.
4 beautiful souls. So what was your expectation of what motherhood would be versus where you are now?
That's an excellent question. That's something we discuss every workshop I have. And I am very honest with every mother in the room. My expectation was pure chaos. Okay, exhaustion.
Wow.
Yes, I was expecting to be like nothing like myself ever again. I was expecting to just, because you hear all these things when you're younger, in all honesty, I hope I can just say this, but don't have sex before marriage because you ain't want no baby. It's going to ruin your life. Like that's the sentence.
Yep.
Don't have a baby. It will ruin your life. Now, granted, that sentence was curated to scare us, I guess, into more of like, be ready, doing your time, be an adult, be established as who you are, know how to stand on your own too before you bring in a man or even a child. But the words that means is when I have a baby, my life is over.
Right.
And so that's how I went into motherhood. I was in college and it was definitely something that was a very big surprise.
Yeah.
And, my husband and I, he wasn't my husband at the time, but we were like, okay, we'll do this thing and we'll love this kid and we will work it out how we need to work it out. But we both looked at each other like sweating bullets. What does this mean for life? Our life is ruined just like they told us it would be. So that's how I went into it. So to even say something like a strong Black mother, in the beginning, for me, what that meant was sacrificing all of self because you already know you're dead, like you're ruined already. So sacrifice every single thing you can give to raise this kid, and that's going to be your strength. Dying to yourself for this kid is your strength.
Wow. And you know what I love about this topic, specifically for us, because we've had this conversation a few times.
Right.
Each time that we have the conversation, something different comes out. And I know what you said this time, I think really struck a chord with me, because I know, especially in our community, the Black community, that is something that is reinforced constantly. Don't bring no babies in this house, because I'm not taking care of nobody's babies, and I'm not doing this. If you do that, you're on your own, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, I get it. It's okay, I'm trying to protect you. I'm trying to make sure that you make the right decisions. But in the same token, you're setting up my thought process for what motherhood is going to be for me.
Absolutely.
And I never thought about it from that perspective. I know for me, it's just like, oh, I'm going to be this mom and I'm going to do this. And, I came from essentially a broken family. So for me, it was, I'm going to do and give more to my child than I was able to get, because I didn't have both parents, or I didn't have this. So for me, strong Black mother was, oh, we going to be about this in this family, and this is what it's going to be.
Yep. I'm going to put my foot down. I don't care what anybody says.
Nobody. But it's good too to look at it from that perspective of, and I'm always a strong advocate of, a parent's voice is like their child's thoughts at the end of the day. That's you are the one that's instilling that in them, and whatever you say, whether they repeat it that day or 20 years from now, they're gonna remember that. Case in point,
I was an adult at the time. It wasn't like premature, I guess, in the cultural world. It wasn't like premature and all this. I was a full-fledged adult, standing on my own too. I was in college, yes, but I was on my own, and I had the means to care for a kid. But what it meant when the test came back positive, it meant my life was ruined because of the narrative that was told to me, as opposed to a healthy narrative of children. Yes, are a blessing, but not just because, you have a child, but they bless you in ways like transforming and pushing and pursuing and creating and just growing. Like all of those words that really are from childhood are the blessing. Like fearlessness, their courage, their ability to kind of like bring things out in us that we didn't know existed. That's the blessing, but that's not taught to us. When we see it, like you even stated, when we see strong Black mothers, put the foot down. It's, I'm sacrificing it all. I'm giving up everything. I'm working 17 jobs just for a meal. And all of those things are true, but that's the only side of the narrative that we see. So we go into motherhood with fear.
Which is not a good place to be. We just talked about fear. Fear will put you in a place where it's like, all right, I'm already defeated. I can't do this.
Yep.
So what does that mean for your children? But sacrifice, I know, is something that I hear all the time. Even like outside of our culture, sacrifice is something that I hear, but I think we probably hear it more in ours because we've had to come from a long history and stint of things not being the way, trying to protect our children. Talked a little bit about that before we started. And so there are reasons beyond you just wanting to be a strong Black mother that comes out. And when I originally came up with the topic, it was more so to help shed light on, what that means and how we interpret it as a culture to be a strong Black mother, but also to push forward the message that it's okay if you're not like a strong Black mother, and creating your own narrative. And so for you, what did that process look like to switch from, oh my God, my life is over, to, okay, I can do this. I can be both Shadee and a mother.
Well, for me, the moment for me realizing I can be Shadee and a mother was realizing that I am Shadee, who happens to be a mother.
Ooh.
Just like everybody else, like I'm Andrea, who's a principal, or I'm Kyla, who's a banker. I'm Shadee, who's a mom. So it turned into this thing of, what does that mean to be Shadee? And within that realm, Shadee's motherhood. How do I mother as Shadee? Not as anybody else on TV, not as, on social media, not even in the books that you read growing up. You read all these romance novels or even these, just the shows of the sitcoms, and you see this mom, and I'm a stay-at-home mom. So I also had to identify with the homemaker, and what does that look like? I didn't necessarily even cook when I first started mothering. It was like,
wow, okay.
Well, yeah, it was a very big transition to realize I'm trying to take on motherhood as the end all be all. And I'm not allowing Shadee to develop as a woman. And within that development, develop the facet of me that's mom. And so with my womanhood, I became more patient. I became more patient with myself, with the things that I bring to the table. In my womanhood, I became more graceful. so I can deal with my children in more grace. In my womanhood, I wanted to explore new recipes. So now, yes, I can cook for my family. In my womanhood, I wanted to become more organized, not just so that I'm to places on time for my children, but as a woman, I want to be able to wake up, meditate, pray, and then be ready for my day. And because I want to do that, my children fall under that umbrella. So I definitely remember the shift. I think it was my third child where I looked at my husband. My body was very different than when we had met. And he looked at me and I was just like in a shy lump of like gooey mess. And he just held my hand and said, I love you. I really love you. He's like, I just want you to know I love you. I said, why did you just say that? Because it came out of nowhere. Right. He said, I could just tell you're not yourself. And that was all he had to say for something in me to say, you know what? I'm only mom all the time. I go to bed as mom. I'm talking to my friends as mom. Like, I'm not connecting to me. I'm not myself. And so that was really the shift of me. And I started to do that hard work. What is me? Like, who am I? And not even in this like larger scale, like, what am I called to, Lord? Not in that. Right. But like the things like, okay, what color do you love? The same things you would ask a kid. What do you want to be when you grow up? Like, if you could quit your job, Shadee, what would you do? Like those minimal questions that we used to try to answer when we were 4 and 5. I had stopped asking myself that. It was all about children. And I couldn't operate like that. So the more I developed as a woman, the more I realized that spills over into this other thing that I happen to be, which is mommy. I don't lead with motherhood. I lead with my woman. Does that make sense?
Okay, I know you're probably looking at me like, why is she looking at me like this? But I'm at a loss for where the first thing that comes to my mind right now, and it's very seldom that I'm at a loss.
Yeah.
But the thing that comes to my mind is, wow, she is absolutely living in her purpose. Like, I know within these sessions that she's doing, the workshops that she's doing, the life coaching that she's doing for mothers, like, I know in my heart that you're making a difference, because just hearing like what your transition was, and I think the most important part is something I hear quite frequently is that when you become a mother, that's it. You're a mom. You're not a person. You're not whatever your profession is. You're not whatever your hobby. You're none of those things. And to hear, we all know, and maybe some people don't, but the best progress and the best growth that we make is when we make the decision to do it for ourselves and nobody else. When you're living life for self, and not like in a selfish, like, oh, forget everybody else, but in the sense of, I need to know me. I need to know what works for me. I need to know what makes me tick, what makes me happy. I need to know what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, what my weaknesses are, what my strengths are, how I can build on this. When we get to that point,
yes,
it's a whole nother ball game. And so to be able to do that as a mom, and I hope, the guests in the audience listening are able to hear this and it resonate, that you can be a mom and also still be a person. You can still go on trips. You can still hang out with your friends. You can have conversations that don't revolve around your kids. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's so powerful for me to hear that from you. And I teared up a little bit because I'm like, dang. And it's also probably because I've known Shadee for a very long time.
Man, some years.
Years, okay? We knew each other from college, and it's just to see your growth from there to now. Like, you've always been an Intune person, period. That's always been you. But to see that now is like mind-blowing to me.
Oh, cool. You're so sweet. It's a work, and something that I'm always telling the mothers I'm working with is I'm still becoming. So when I'm coaching, I want you to hear my journey. Yes. I want you to take from my experience. Yes. But I'm walking through this with you. I'm very much still becoming. The only thing that will, I guess, separate me is my intentionality in keeping my womanhood first. And it was a hard moment, like a hard line had to be drawn for a while, where my children had to verbally hear me say, no, this is my time. And it felt very selfish. It felt like I was leaving people out. And I said, I can't be apologetic for you, especially my daughters, seeing my mom take her time. Imagine what that does to her. Wait a minute, I've seen my mom work. I've seen my mom coach. I've seen my mom put together these events. I've seen my mom teach me, literally sit down with me and teach me and guide me, cook dinner, go on dates with my dad, and then tell me, this is my time. And I'm going to take my time and you're going to be okay. That's a whole different narrative, because as they grow up, it turns into it's all right to have your time.
Yeah.
It's okay. And in my home, I'm teaching us, I'm leading us as a community. We are a small community in my home. So I'm always telling my children that, like, your community member, and I mean myself in this era, she needs her time. And because you honor the community, you honor that I need the time. And that's the lesson. That's the lesson. And I remember feeling really bad about it. Again, feeling selfish about it. And mom guilt is a huge thing. You mean go get my nails done? I need to buy Jimmy some shoes. It's like, okay, sis, ask auntie for shoes. Or budget for the nails. But some way, somehow, you've got to take your time, queen, or your empire don't run. That's the reality.
Say it again.
I'm telling you, take the time or it does not run. You're going to run yourself into the ground.
And I know for so many people, especially listening, it's like, this is a foreign concept. You are making this up. This is not real. This is not how life works. Like, I'm living every day as a mom.
Mm-hmm.
Where does this fit in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that a lot. And I'm going to say to, just that person, you got this. The reality of life is we make time for what we desire and what we need. We were born literally with this innate ability to see what we need. That's why we come out crying and we know we need the food, or we know we need to play, or we know it's time to crawl, we know it's time to stand. We don't lose that. We just lose being in tune to that. So you have to really make the time and be in tune to yourself to say, do I need silent time? Do I need to call a girlfriend and just have some like camaraderie? Do I need to really just go out dancing because I love music? Those things are okay. I think the hard part really comes, especially again for the strong Black mother. In our community, there is a lack, or at least a sense of lack, of tribe, of support. I'm a single mom. Mm-hmm. Or I can't leave my children anywhere. I don't trust people. And all of those are facts. They're valid and they're true. And that's the part where do the work. Because do the work to see, why am I not trusting anybody at all? Is it a fear thing? Are some of the people in my tribe actually trustworthy? But because of what happened to me, I can't trust. So now I'm putting myself in a box and I can never hang out. I can never take my time because I'm not doing my work. Is it something where you're like, I feel alone? But if we were really to work on why we feel that way, could we really see somebody who's maybe said, let me know if you need anything? That person that, kind of always saying that, call me if you need something. We should do a play date. And you never called, but you're always alone. It's like that's what the work I do is in the woman. Again, it's something we're bringing to the table where we hold back. So I could go on and on, girl.
You can. And this is why you're doing what you're doing, because you are helping people.
Yes. Yes.
But, within all of that, I hear the touches on mental health that are coming up, because at the end of the day, if you're in a place where you are consistently sheltering yourself, sheltering your children, not utilizing supports because supports are there, people are offering, but it's like, oh, okay, yeah, they're just talking, because everybody always says, if you need anything, but how many people actually mean, if you need anything? Every time I call, are you going to be able to support me? Can I actually rely on you? And even down to like, what happened to them that makes them so skeptical?
Right.
It makes me think about women who have at some point in their life experienced sexual assault.
Absolutely.
Or sexual abuse or physical abuse. That starts to shape your mind and your narrative of what the world is like.
Absolutely.
And so now you're having children, and what's to say that the same won't be for your children? And I work with, children that are traumatized, but I also work with their parents. And I know that narrative is true. There is a fear, and it's valid to have that fear. But at the same time, both you and your child are suffering in some aspect because you're not focusing on it as much. So with that and with them carrying all of that stuff, I heard you say that you do focus on that, but what does that process look like for those who, don't take a workshop or aren't in Chicago and able to access all the greatness that you're doing? What are some of the things that you discuss with them as far as letting go some of those fears and some of those reservations they have based on something that may have happened to them as a child?
Well, good question. One of the things that I do virtual coaching as well as one-on-one and then a lot of workshops. But one of the things that I'm always just reiterating to my clients is I am not a therapist. I have training in it, I have background in it, but my work is to really help you propel and thrive in motherhood and womanhood. But when we start to deal with like deeper things that really impact how we view life, how we interact with life, how we view ourselves, I'm always connecting them. I have a friend who I work closely with, who I'm always connecting them with. And if there was anyone that I was virtually coaching, that would be my strong encouragement. I am very, very big on getting the work done for you spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. I am an advocate for therapists. I think we don't seek them out enough, especially in our community.
Right.
It's something. So when you first told me even about Strong Black Mother, one of the images, I guess, that went through my head was a mom. It was the face of a mom I had worked with years ago. And I was really, really encouraging her to seek out just family therapy, not just single, but family. I think her family really could have benefited from it. And her words to me were, we don't let people in our business like that. You're lucky I called you.
And that is the thought process of a lot of the people in our community. Yep.
Yeah. And so that broke my heart because I know where that stems from. I'm a Black woman. I know where that's from. I know why. I identify with it. There are several things I'm constantly having to even check. Whoa, is that a bias I have? But because of just the nature of my heart plus my training, I have this like awareness that it is so great, if nothing else, to just sit and be able to really talk and speak out and release out some of those traumas that we don't even deem as trauma. We deem it as, well, that's life. That's what comes with it.
That happens. Yep. Sweep it under the rug. Keep it moving.
Mm-hmm.
Be strong.
Be strong. It's a saying that I have with my younger ladies that I walk with. And I say, be strong, sister. And so even when I say like, be strong, we're always saying, what does that look like? You said it a little early as far as like, there are moments where we're not, or at least not feeling as strong, where I actually do feel hurt. I'm sure you've come across, because you work in this field, across the one that will say all their problems and then at the end of it say, but it's fine, it's good, it'll all work out.
It'll all work out. I'm doing what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pushing forward. But it makes me think too, like if we want to get very specific from the beginning, because I know a lot of people who are close to me who have had children and just, friends that I'm still connected with via social media. And the thing I'm starting to hear a lot more about, and I'm glad, is postpartum depression and normalizing. Because I think that is where it starts. When we think about the realm of mental health as it relates to being a mother, especially a Black mother, because we already know, and maybe some people don't, but going into it, you're not going to be heard as much. Your concerns aren't going to be as valid. They're going to be minimized. Oh, you're in pain. Okay, no, you're fine. Like all of those things come into play from the beginning. When you go into the hospital and have your baby, you're less likely to be validated for what happens versus if it was a Caucasian or someone of another race. Yeah. Right. So it starts there. And it just really makes me think about, I'm glad that people are starting to normalize postpartum depression and starting to talk about it. I know there's one person my line sister is a doula. I know someone else is a doula. Actually, one of the people that I interviewed on the relationships episode, Melanie, she is a doula. Mm-hmm. These are Black doulas too, so that makes me happy.
There you go, ladies. Yes, queens.
Right. But there's also a girl that I met in grad school by the name of Tisha. She's doing a lot of work too. She recently became a mom. And so this has become essentially her purpose in her work, because now I know and I see what it looks like, and I want to normalize that for other people. But in my mind, now that we're talking about it, I'm like, it starts there. From jump. What does your support look like when you're going through those symptoms of postpartum and you're struggling because no, I'm supposed to get this right. Like,
Right.
I'm supposed to know how to feed my baby and how for them to latch, and I'm supposed to be this person for them.
Yeah.
But then what happens when I'm not? Now it's shame, now it's guilt, now it's I'm not doing this right, or this is what everybody said, or my life is over. They were right.
Wow, that's good. Now I'm emotional. It's such a heavy thing because it's not always, and here's the reality, it's not always that we don't have a support system. Our system doesn't know how to support. So here I am in your space. I'm throwing you the nicest baby shower, right? I bought you all of these things. I'm telling you, you'll be okay. You are strong, girl. You got this. You can do. I'm feeling like that's how you need the support. And the moment I say, I just don't really want to be by the baby right now, and he's 2 weeks old, then what?
Everybody looks at you like, what are you talking about?
Our system of our culture doesn't know how to support in that realm, because we're just going to go to America. We ain't going to go further than that. But when you really go all the way back, when we were having our children, they were ripping them from us, or we were having our children in silence and hiding them for weeks and months at a time so that they wouldn't rip us. There was no room for this.
Right.
So then we start to learn, we start to educate ourselves, and we start to see, wait a minute, you felt that? You felt, oh, that was, okay. So it starts to become something that was acknowledged amongst us, but not the masses, especially not our men. And then we wouldn't let the children see it because, again, there's this air of don't have that baby. So now here we are, and there's been, genocide and killing is in prison and slavery and just all of these traumas towards the woman and towards the mother and towards the beautiful act of carrying and birthing. There's this large disconnect of, wait a minute, once I've birthed, my hormones are imbalanced, and that's a scientific thing I've got to recalibrate. The life that was inside of me is now outside of me. So even my heart literally shifts and begins to feel different. My hip bones are going back in place, so I'm in pain and agony. My nipples are falling off because baby or me don't know how to latch, and I am literally healing from the inside out. If we ever got a wound on the outside, we see the healing process. We know to watch out for it. We know to take it easy. We might even create a limp, if something was really wrong. Internally, we don't see that.
No.
But there was really a ripping of a placenta. There was really a passing of blood and uterine wall and baby. Umbilical cord literally severed. Like, these are literal things.
Right.
Imagine what that does to our physical, but then also to our spiritual, of a ripping and a separation. And we don't acknowledge it. But it's not that we don't, it's that we don't know how. I don't know how to see my wife in agony and mourning after 2 weeks of having. Shouldn't you be in love? Shouldn't you be head over heels? I don't know how. How do I do this? So that's really, I'm a big advocate on do the work. What did you bring to the table as far as when you birthed? And I'm so glad you brought that up, because postpartum depression manifests in so many different ways. And we're unaware of the ways they manifest, but then we're also unaware of how to support that. What do we do?
It doesn't happen to everybody, but I'm sure that, people have signs and symptoms and similarities. But at the same time, if you consider, without having a child, if you try to operate on a schedule where you're not sleeping, you're not eating like you're supposed to, you're not taking care of your body, just take the baby out. Never been pregnant, none of that. Most people, actually all people, cannot operate at that level of exhaustion.
Right.
If you're in a room for too long by yourself, you'll start to hallucinate. You'll start to see things. You'll start to hear things. So why would we think it would be any different for a new mother who, one, is healing, like you said, from the inside out? And a lot of the times, if I can't see it, I can't place hands on it. So there's
Yes.
nothing wrong.
Yes.
It just makes me think of some things down to like endometriosis or just being in pain. I know for me, when I had a procedure a few months ago and just like how I felt, and I'm telling people, and I know like you're trying to understand me, but you can't because you can't feel it. And I can describe it to you and you can see that I'm
Yes.
physically in agony. But outside of that, I can't physically give it to you.
Yes.
And a lot of people seeing is believing. So I can't see it. All I can see is that you had this baby. This is what you wanted. We prepared for this. Now the baby's here. Now you're supposed to have it together.
Yes.
It's just not realistic because you are healing.
You are healing. And the pressure of the social media snapback is crazy.
Oh,
See, she done snap back and you my snapback goals, and the grace that has been lifted off of mothers, I am praying that it's put back on us to just be, again, the woman. Like you said, if we take the child out, let us stand here as women who have been through a trauma situation in an exhaustive state, in a non-eating state, and in a newness, because each child is a newness. I have no idea what's happening. I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea what's required of me from minute to minute.
right.
Just put me there as a woman. Take the child out. If we will put that grace back on the woman, then as mothers, we would see it differently. We wouldn't see it as a burden. We wouldn't see it as you tripping. You need to get yourself together. You better be strong. Your grandma did it. It's like grandma did it and lost her crap.
Lost it all.
Or you're sitting there saying, you're sitting there having traumatic stories about when you were raised in grandma's house because there was no real support for grandma. So we can compare to grandma, but if grandma was sitting there talking to us, I promise you, because I've done it, I've talked to them, I promise you there will be a real push for us to say, baby, take care of you. You talk about strong, you be strong. You find your way to pull your weight as a woman. You find your way to get your workout in. You find your way to eat your meal. You find a way to sit down and eat that meal. You find a way to get your hair done or at least wash your hair yourself. And you'll see your strength come out. It's not all about, can I sacrifice? How much can I give? That's depletion. It's not strength.
Yep.
But again, as a culture, and because this podcast is just so, I just think you're doing such an awesome job bringing these type of topics to the platform. Because again, as a Black woman, I understand, I identify with it, and I struggle with it every day. Every single day with 4 children and a husband, there is a real pull on who I am as a woman and what I bring to each table. And I have a 10-year-old all the way down to 10-month-old. So I'm a different style of mom for each child.
Right.
There's different generations. They're literally decades apart. But if I know for a fact, if I don't start my morning with saying, Shadee, here you are, and here's where you bring, and here's where you're struggling, and here's where you're thriving, I can't do anything for anybody else in this house. And there's the real strength.
Mm-hmm.
Be able to look at your crap and say, I'm struggling here and I'm thriving here, but I'm going.
When there is so much power and vulnerability, and I know we all shy away from it because everybody doesn't need to be in my business, and I get that.
Right.
But at the same time, if it comes down to life and death, which a lot of the times it is, because postpartum depression can push you to a point of not wanting to be here.
Absolutely.
Even being a mother sometimes, and where you are in life, because just because you're a mom don't mean that life stops happening. You're still a person. You still deal with things. You're still in relationships. You still work. You like all of these things are still existing. Now you just have an additional role to fulfill.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm glad, I think this is my favorite version of this conversation that we've had, because I think it has touched on even more than what we even thought of when we originally had this conversation. And I really hope that for the audience that's listening, that if it just touches one person, you are still allowed to be who you are and be a mother. That's just an additional role that you have. It's not your full person. That's not what that is. And it doesn't have to be your full person.
It doesn't. And let me just say this to every woman who's aspiring to be a mom. It's not the end. And Tiana said it earlier, that is a a hope and a dream. I do encourage every woman that's not a mother yet to not put expectation there, only because of the nature of life. When we expect so much, then there is a sense of disappointment. That's just the law of the land. But I would encourage you to really go into motherhood with this open arm of, as much as I'm growing a seed inside of me, I'm growing as a woman. Every time I pour into my child, I am literally growing as a woman. Like, take on motherhood in that air and you will soar. As long as you are constantly checking your bias, checking what you bring to the table, knowing that you got junk on the table, and just know that, just know it, embrace it.
Embrace it.
Embrace it. Sometimes I'm looking at my daughters and I'm harder on them, and I realize it's just because they are girls. Because I don't want you to get out there and feel like whatever, X, Y, and Z, from my own position. So I just want to encourage you women that are looking forward to being moms, especially if you are over 30, keep going for the goal. I pray that your womb will open when the Lord says it's time. And I pray that when it's time for it to open, that you really embrace motherhood. Don't be afraid of it. Things will shift in a way you never imagined. But go into that the same way you would a new job. I never imagined it to explode this way, but here we are on this new journey. Like, do it that way, not in the sense of what we knew it to be of, this will ruin your life, or life won't be the same as you know it. You'll never, ever get an alone time. That's the negative view of it.
Yep.
It's hard, yes. It's work, yes. But you are a woman who has now become a mother. Not the other way around. It's just, I'm just mama.
You beat me to the punch, because I was going to say, if you had one piece of advice. But it was good, and I think it's something that needs to be heard. And if you need to go back and replay it and replay it and replay it until it's in your mind and you believe it, then I strongly encourage that. Because like I said, I want to be a mother at some point, and I know that I have high expectations. And I have high expectations because what I bring to the table. I came from a single parent household. I came from the abandonment of a father. I know.
Right.
So even down to who I choose, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
But all of those things go into that. So I think that is a very important message to know and to hear. Is a combination of a whole bunch of things that go into this perspective that we have developed, this title that we have given to be the strong Black mother. You don't have to be that all the time. And it can mean something different from what we have made it.
Yeah. There's a strength in vulnerability, sis. There's a strength in saying, listen, I'm tired.
So tired.
there's a strength in saying, Mom's going to the hotel for the weekend. But see, that's the thing too. When you do that, come on back. Come on back. When you're done with that hotel, when you're done with your mama, come on back and give it all you got. But there's a strength there to say, I need to go to therapy so I can be better for me and for you. There's a strength in that. That is the strong Black mother. That's the mother.
That's the narrative that we want to switch it to. Hello? Has everybody heard that?
Hello.
Okay. So this is the part of the show that I like to call Let's Advocate. So you've given all these great things about motherhood and the mental health of the strong Black mother. However, if you could change one thing about the state of mental health right now within our culture, and that's Black and minority culture, what would that one thing be?
I can change one, just one.
Just one.
I think
you have multiple. You can hit us with the multiple.
Okay. In all honesty, if I could change the state of it, I was going to say to make it more accessible, but there's actually a ton of free services. There are several programs that you can be. So it's not that it's the accessibility of it, but it is the way that it is perceived within our culture. Mm-hmm. And I honestly, even saying it out loud, I'm not sure if that's on you all side or if that's on our side, like the people that have gone through it or that lean on therapy or that are for therapy to just speak up and begin to teach our community. Like, this is such an asset to us. As a people, we've been traumatized. Like, even if it's not just the mom, as a unit, as a culture, as a society of Blackness in America, we have been traumatized. in so many ways, in larger scales and very, very close scale. And I don't know if we give enough air to that trauma or enough, we don't even recognize, I don't know how to support this. You hear, okay, well, my friend died from gun violence again. It's like, dang, homie. Or me, I personally know a lot of people who've passed away, but then friends that are closer to it where they have multiple in 1 year. And it's like, what can you say to that? Just like, I'm praying for you.
Right.
And that's as far as it goes. And prayer works, yes, but there is a real disconnect to the trauma we have and the resource that is mental health support. And so if that was the thing I would change, it would just be the way we view it.
Mm-hmm.
The way we don't run after to just say, hey, I need some help.
Right.
Oh, you crazy. It's like there's such a negative in that as opposed to like, listen, I just need help sorting this out.
This happened.
Mm-hmm.
It affected me this way and I can't manage. So what do I do? 9 times out of 10, and that's not a real quote or a real, percentage or whatever, but you're going to struggle to do it alone because you don't have all the answers, and it takes a certain level of self-awareness to be able to look at yourself and say that. But because we have been taught to push on and carry on, that's what we do. But all that does is give us one more item to put in our suitcase that we're already carrying around in the world to manage. Now we're at the airport and our bag is 75 pounds. Now we have to pay extra.
Yeah, we got to come on, preach. Bag of lady. Come on and preach. That we have to pay extra. It is. It's a real need of how do we support? What do we do? How do we begin to change that air of I don't want to go to them and spill all my business.
Right. One person at a time. That's all we can do.
That's what we got.
Okay. So we talked about all the wonderful work you're doing. Let people know what's going on. You recently had an event that was amazing, I saw.
Thank you. Yeah, it was phenomenal. I have another one coming up in the month of May. Another workshop, Life Balance Workshop in Chicago on May 28th. I have a Black Excellence Gala where we are celebrating everything Black culture. We've got Black restaurants sponsoring, Black violinists and Black dancers. And it's just going to be so much fun. That's actually coming up pretty soon. And then I'm hosting another thing on just family meetings. That's something that I'm really big on, just the family. And as you heard all throughout this podcast, support. Just how do we support? How do we give a voice to everybody in the community, again, which is what I call my family. So I have a lot of things going on. I do fly out. I do virtual coaching. So you can find me on Instagram. My name is Hey Shadee, HeyShadee. I love connecting. I love doing this. And I'm just so appreciative of what you're doing. This is just such a major thing for us in this time and in this culture. So thank you for just answering the call, sis. Thank you so much.
Thank you, girl. And we talked about it earlier, me not wanting to be a martyr. And I'm not going to be that. And I'm going to take all the wonderful things that you told me and keep them in my back pocket. So when that day comes, that I know. But I am really appreciative of you too and us being able to have this conversation. And I honestly, just thinking, I don't think I could have had this conversation like this with anybody else. So I really do appreciate it. I hope it resonated with everybody. I'm very excited for it to just release, to give some of the mamas just the word they've been waiting to hear. And I hope if nobody gets anything else, you got that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And as always, y'all, thank you for tuning in to the Cult for the Culture podcast. And I will catch y'all later. Bye, y'all. For more information about the show, events, or if you have any questions, you can find us on Instagram at Healthy Pleasures Inc. and visit us at www.healthypleasuresinc.org.